Hello, you absolute mad lads. It's your boy HeroInHisHead here, leader of the Mad Lads Guild, and frankly, an all-around pretty weird guy. So, welcome back to the 5th installment of Kenshi, Rise of the Dwarves. Now, let's get right back into it, everybody. So last time we saw Mordor's Most Wanted, our nobles were sitting right there pretty inside the bar outside the hub, and the Black Dragon Genin were running en masse towards our gates. We were, frankly, underprepared, underleveled, and not ready for this at all. But we need to prove a point here, which is that we are sick and tired of falling prey to these vicious barbarians. No more. So, I make a decision. We're going to need some help. First things first, we need to get all of our dwarves back at the city, up into the inner keep to wait it out until reinforcements arrive. So I open the inner gate and the door to the homestead and order all my troops to converge up there at top speed. And as soon as they arrive, they rush up to the top floor and assume a stealth position to avoid any Black Dragon ninjas who are currently rushing the lower city to find that no one is home. We cut back to the king and the nobles. I decide the best course of action is probably to split them up and head to 3 different cities to maximize the assistance. So one heads to Vane, another to Stack, and the last one to Squint. We bounce back to the keep as the ninjas have discovered my dwarves and are currently attempting to make their way through the doors. The Warhound fights off a few of them, but eventually he himself is overwhelmed by their numbers, and I briefly wonder if I'm about to get hammer-fisted in the rumble. But luckily, due to an error with the AI or pathfinding, the ninjas don't actually move past the first floor and end up leaving the building, so that worked out for me. Simultaneously, Giorgio makes it to Vane, Gideon to Squin, and Dendu to Stack, and all 3 of them are rushed to the nearest bar to start the recruitment of as many mercenaries as we can afford. Just get all of them. Haul it back to the city because we are racing against the clock here, people. Back in Carrick Bodor, the ninjas are running throughout my streets like a bunch of filthy ants. The entire city is just completely filled with them, and they're scrambling in and out of buildings in the attempt to find loots. Now, as Giorgio was running, I came across a group of settlers. Now, this is literally amazing because settlers can be sent to your base as idle NPCs, similar to bodyguards, except they're for way longer, and they just add some life to your base. But one of the added perks of having them is that they will defend it as if it was their own. Now, I'm not huge about the idea of having non-dwarves wandering around my base, but the thought process was that I could just import and get rid of them later on. So essentially, they're just disposable meat shields with swords and crossbows. And everyone knows the best meat shields are disposable meat shields. So I hired like 7 of them and sent them all back to the city. Flash back to the city, and the first of the mercenary groups are starting to arrive and begin scaling the entry walk. The nobles show up too, and I have them start towards the gates as well. Pop up to the keep, and we'll see that our Warhound has been busy because there are far more bodies on the ground than there should be. But I am not going to question it. He's battered, bruised, but he's moving strong. The nobles down below reach the gates and enter the mining camps with the mercenaries to meet the Black Dragon Genin head-on. Now, initially, we swarmed them with our superior numbers, absolutely overwhelming them, because this is the time. So simultaneously, I have the dwarves up in the tower begin to file out and sandwich the ninjas and start attacking from both sides, so they just have to split their numbers up. Giorgio and the rest of the nobles fight down below with the mercs, and the enemy numbers are beginning to grow as reinforcements arrive from the mountain, but they still stand very little chance against the horde of mercenaries that are just continuing to flood in en masse right now. Those that chose to scale the mountain instead of meet the nobles and the king down below are currently engaged with the dwarves up in the keep, who, despite still taking a serious beating, are holding their own and maintaining the offensive. Back at the base of the mountain, the mercenaries have carved out a literal swath of ninja to get to the town square, and they are overwhelming the enemy as we speak. I mean, it's almost starting to make me feel bad because this is an absolute massacre. In fact, it's not long before the dogs come in and every last bandit and ninja is just cut down for daring to enter my walls. It's absolute chaos. They just rip them apart. As we clean up and heal from the battle, I'm like, well, shit. This is a chance for some recruitment and maybe some more dwarves. So I build me another prison with a ton of cells for which to imprison and go all cotton hell on their asses. I expand the entryway and add a wall running down the walkway so we can shoot enemies as they're coming up, approaching the front gate. And lastly, we stick the only living ninja that I could find into a cell for conversion therapy. After that, things pretty much go back to normal for a bit. We build some new buildings, fight off a couple of bandits here and there by turning them into literal dog food, and do some research, finally get equipped with some crossbows for the walls, which is super nice. And then we pop over to the cells, and I convert that ninja into a short boy and send his ass off to work. His stats are actually pretty good, which is going to help significantly in future defenses. And we build some more buildings on the platform square to give it more of a city feel, as well as just complete some other buildings that are currently under idle construction. And so the base is really starting to take like a more complete shape, you know? So, don't get me wrong, we still have a couple more bandit attacks while all this is happening, but we mostly just kill them, cage them, convert them, and put them to work. After a few good dust bandit attacks, we actually have enough dwarves where I can separate the soldier tree from the worker tree and create a new squad tab, so that's really cool. I also had a really good idea to add a third gate between the top and bottom of the mountain to kind of act as like a floodgate. So essentially my idea here was that if my men were retreating into the keep because we were overwhelmed, they may not all make it in time depending on injuries, so we have checkpoints that we can close at certain points to prevent intrusion. And the dwarves would essentially have more time to be safe and be protected. So I could also line them with turrets and make a firing squad that can kind of shoot down into the city as well. Now, all of this progress has me feeling bold, so it's about time we took our dwarves out on the first real step into the world. You know, it's about time we took the fight to someone else for a change. I'm sick of getting rooted. So I gather up the troops and we make our way towards the Dust King's tower, freshly renovated by Genesis, and we're going to eliminate him and his filthy breed from the world. As we approach his location, I make a quick scum save because, you know, sometimes I have bad ideas. And we commence the assault on their walls. Now, we rip through the front gate and things are going really well right from the beginning. We took them by surprise, so they weren't able to accurately respond to the attack, and we're just decimating. So we fight our way from the front gate towards the tower, and that is when the Dust King finally shows up. So Giorgio runs to fight him head-on in a one-on-one challenge, and the two trade blows for what seems like quite a while, and honestly, it could go either way. They're really, really going at it. One of the Dust King's lackeys does attempt to intervene on the duel, but luckily Dendu and the others showed up in time to stop them. After a minute, we have him backed up against the wall, and we are pummeling the shit out of him into his own tower, when seemingly out of nowhere, the tower spews out a mass of dust bandits, and all of a sudden round 2 starts up, and we're fighting right at the base of the Dust King's tower. The fight is really hard, but as Giorgio finally knocks out the Dust King, the bandits start to die off and collapse without their leader to kind of hold the line for him, you know? So now we just go through and we sack and pillage the compound. And let me tell you, this felt pretty great. It was the first real step to us becoming a kingdom here, and more importantly, becoming fully independent, functional, and capable of defending ourselves against the other factions, because that's ultimately what we want, right? You know, so we head out, and I send the whole company back to Carrick Bodor, except for Giorgio, who is headed to Squin to turn in the Dust King and get his bounty. All in all, solid day here on Kenshi 4'8" edition, but you know, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So that'll be all for now, because next episode is when oh man, next time is when shit really starts to hit the fan. Stay tuned.